The film begins with a beautiful woman named Sawyer Scott, who is passionate about sports to maintain her physique. Moments later, Sawyer is overjoyed when she receives a job offer from the company she applied to. She's asked to come to Washington for a job interview. Amidst her disbelief, Sawyer rushes home to her dorm to prepare for her trip. The next day, Sawyer embarks on a long journey to Washington, hoping to improve her currently struggling life. However, during her trip, she receives information about severe traffic congestion and decides to take an alternative route with the help of Google Maps. After taking the alternative route for a while, Google Maps suddenly directs her to turn right ahead. Following the directions, Sawyer becomes frustrated when Google Maps leads her to an incorrect path. Believing it's an error, Sawyer decides to look for a turn ahead. After driving further, Google Maps again directs her to an incorrect path. Feeling lost, Sawyer decides to turn around. At that moment, two mysterious figures are seen watching and following her. During her journey, Sawyer stops to look at a physical map. Suddenly, a car passes by and stops in front of her. The driver, Hollis, and his brother Buck offer their help, claiming to be locals who can assist Sawyer in finding her way. However, Sawyer is suspicious and tries to politely decline. Hollis's strange behavior makes Sawyer panic, especially when he demands that she follow him to his house. Hollis threatens not to let her go unless she complies with his demands. Sawyer tries to resist their advances and manages to fight off Hollis and Buck, despite sustaining an injury to her leg. With no other choice, Sawyer flees into the woods and hides, attempting to stop the bleeding. She throws rocks to distract Hollis and Buck. Feeling they were far away, Sawyer went to look for water because she was thirsty. Luckily, there was a river nearby. As the day began to darken, Sawyer, exhausted and limping, tried to find shelter. She kept telling herself that everything would be okay. At night, Sawyer decided to sleep among the rocks to protect herself from the biting cold. The next day, a police officer named Nick received a call about a mysterious car found near Ras Creek. He immediately informed the police chief, Sean. Upon hearing this, Sean said he would handle it himself, instructing Nick to focus on another case. When Sean arrived at the scene, he was puzzled by the car, which seemed to have been abandoned. Moreover, he noticed dried blood outside the vehicle. Back to Sawyer, she woke up to the sound of a helicopter passing by. With her injured leg, Sawyer tried to signal for help, but her efforts were in vain as the helicopter was unlikely to hear her cries. Meanwhile, Police Chief Sean couldn't help but laugh at the sight of Hollis's battered face. Knowing Hollis was a repeat offender, Sean tried to get information about the mysterious car parked in the Rust Creek area. However, Hollis feigned ignorance. When Buck arrived, Sean became even more suspicious due to their injuries. Hollis claimed the injuries were from a hunting accident, but Sean wasn't convinced. Without evidence, Sean decided to leave. Meanwhile, Sawyer struggled to clean her infected wound while enduring pain. She began to feel symptoms of fever. Despite the pain, Sawyer rested and showed resilience, determined to survive with a strong mental attitude. In short, Hollis and Buck visited Sawyer's car to eliminate evidence. At the same time, Sawyer, who had a fever, checked her wound and was disheartened to see it becoming infected. Suddenly, she heard a sound above the cliff and was shocked to see her car, which Hollis and Buck had discarded. Hollis was ecstatic, checking the car's condition, and suggested they continue searching for Sawyer. As they left, Sawyer found her phone, which was cracked but still functional. However, she was frustrated with the weak signal. Meanwhile, Hollis discovered a bloody bandage, leading him to believe Sawyer was nearby. Sawyer searched for a signal, but her phone eventually died and she broke down in tears, feeling weak. As night fell, Sawyer stumbled upon a cabin and, exhausted, saw someone before fainting. The next day, Sawyer woke up in the cabin, surprised to find her wounds treated. She struggled to walk and panicked when a mysterious man, Lowell, approached her. Sawyer tried to defend herself, but Lowell attempted to calm her down. After being hit by powder, Lowell washed his face with milk. Meanwhile, Nick, who was suspicious, questioned Hollis and Buck's visit to the police station. He was convinced they were hiding something, but Sean dismissed his concerns, saying it was just a misunderstanding about a car running out of gas. Nick decided to investigate on his own. The next day, when Lowell brought food, Sawyer panicked upon realizing her hands were tied. Lowell asked her to eat first, and despite feeling hungry and tired, Sawyer tried to resist. However, when Lowell wasn't paying attention, she devoured the food. Sawyer then told Lowell about the incident where she was attacked by two men after being misdirected by Google Maps. Lowell seemed to recognize the two men. During their conversation, Lowell suddenly asked Sawyer to be quiet because the two men were outside. It turned out Hollis and Buck were Lowell's cousins, and they were searching for a woman who had escaped into the woods. Lowell tried to protect Sawyer by denying any knowledge of her whereabouts. Meanwhile, Sawyer tried to untie her hands while Lowell was distracted. At that time, Hollis, who suspected Lowell's strange behavior, asked Buck to check. Hearing that, Lowell looked panicked, especially since Sawyer was tied up inside. Luckily, Sawyer managed to free himself. After a while, Sawyer, who managed to escape, was seen walking towards the hut. Not long after, Lowell followed him, warning her to wait for the right moment to leave due to the remote location. That night, Commander John from the police headquarters asked about the case of the red car found in Russ Creek. Sean claimed the case was closed, but Nick showed evidence that the car belonged to a woman named Sawyer, who had gone missing 4 days ago. John decided to send a search team and trackers to search the woods. After John left, Sean seemed panicked, as if he was hiding something. Back at the caravan, Lowell warned Sawyer to be careful with the alkali powder, which was highly corrosive if not neutralized with milk. Sawyer, aware of Lowell's illegal business, wanted to leave and promised not to reveal anything. However, Lowell asked her to wait for the right moment as he didn't have a car to take her away. He promised to borrow his cousin's car to take Sawyer away after they left for the city to sell the illegal powder. Meanwhile, Sean scolded Hollis and Buck for their foolishness, as Sawyer's disappearance would trigger a large-scale search. He was worried that the police team would discover his illegal factory. Sean, dissatisfied with his salary, had started an illegal business with Hollis and Buck. They promised to work harder to find Sawyer. The next day, Sawyer helped Lowell make the illegal powder. Lowell then asked her to pour acetone into a bucket containing lighter fluid fragments. While carrying a thermos of alkali liquid, Lowell explained that this liquid was more dangerous than the alkali powder, as a small spark could cause a massive explosion. As Hollis and Buck were arriving, Lowell asked Sawyer to hide. Before leaving, Sawyer took a screwdriver for protection.
Hey! Just put that down!
Meanwhile, Nick overheard Sean's conversation about Sawyer and asked him to kill her if found. Sean panicked and tried to recruit Nick, but he refused, being an honest police officer. In the midst of the panic, Nick told Sean to stay quiet as the law would soon catch up with him. However, as Nick reached for his keys, they fell. As he bent to pick them up, Sean suddenly pulled out a gun and shot Nick. The corrupt police officer ruthlessly killed his own subordinate to cover up his wrongdoing. That night, Sean asked Hollis and Buck to bury Nick's body in the woods, and he also requested Sawyer's wallet, which Hollis had found, to perfect his plan. The next day, when Commander John came, Sean immediately did his evil trick, where he expressed his suspicions about Nick, who suddenly disappeared mysteriously. Then, before Commander John did the search, Sean pretended to open Nick's locker. After opening it, it turned out that Sawyer's wallet was in the locker. Apparently, Sean slandered Nick, who had kidnapped Sawyer. When John fell for his trick, Sean, who saw John and his team preparing to start the search, rushed to leave the police station. Meanwhile, Lowell and Sawyer were chatting casually in front of the caravan. Lowell expressed his desire to quit making illegal goods and work in a legitimate place. However, when they heard the sound of a car, Lowell asked Sawyer to hide. It was Sean, who wanted to check on the illegal package. Lowell pointed a shotgun at Sean, telling him to wait for the outcome. Sean threatened to shoot before Lowell could aim, but Lowell was actually targeting a drum of chemicals that could explode at any moment. After negotiations, Sean left, and Lowell felt relieved. In short, Hollis, now dressed as a corrupt police officer, took the illegal package to deliver. However, just before leaving, he noticed footprints on the stairs and realized that Lowell had been hiding Sawyer. After Hollis and Buck left, Lowell rushed to Sawyer to plan their escape. But in the middle of their conversation, suddenly... And it turned out to be Hollis and Buck. Lowell was caught hiding Sawyer. In a desperate situation, Lowell gave a secret code and asked Sawyer to make coffee for Hollis and Buck. However, Sawyer had actually poured alkali liquid into the coffee, which was highly explosive. Moments later, Buck noticed something was off with the microwave, and it indeed exploded in front of him, destroying the entire caravan. Buck died after being hit by the alkali flames, and the caravan exploded violently. However, moments later, they panicked when they saw Hollis, who was badly burned but still alive. Lowell asked Sawyer to run as far as possible. After Sawyer ran, the two got into a fight. When Hollis was cornered, Lowell asked his brother to repent and leave the illegal business, especially since he felt that Sean would betray them. Suddenly, Sean arrived. Unfortunately, the kind-hearted Lowell was shot and killed by Sean. Meanwhile, Sawyer, a skilled runner, ran as fast as she could and distanced herself from the forest. Back to Sean, seeing the chaos. The cunning Sean would frame Hollis and his family as the main suspects. He would kill Hollis, accusing him of being the mastermind behind the illegal powder. Hearing this, Hollis, filled with regret, could only resign himself to being shot by the corrupt police officer Sean. Meanwhile, Sawyer continued to run while enduring the pain in her leg. After running for a long distance, she felt relieved when she was found by a police officer and got into his car. However, unexpectedly, the officer was Sean, the corrupt police officer. Sean asked Sawyer to calm down, but during their conversation, Sawyer realized that Sean was the boss of Lowell's illegal powder syndicate. Sawyer's panic intensified as Sean stopped the car and asked her to get out and walk into the woods. After walking for a while to the edge of a cliff, Sawyer realized she was about to be executed and asked Sean to repent, as his actions would have consequences in the afterlife. However, Sean, the corrupt police officer, didn't care. As Sawyer was about to be executed, she mustered all her strength to fight back. Despite being submerged in water several times, she continued to struggle. Using a screwdriver she had taken earlier from the caravan, Sawyer stabbed the corrupt police officer and hit him until he died. Sean, the corrupt police officer, died with the screwdriver lodged in his heart. His body then drifted away like a piece of wood. Afterward, Sawyer, with her injured leg, struggled to return to the road. Just as she was walking home safely, the police arrived to rescue her, albeit very late. The film finally came to an end. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Amri Film channel so you don't miss the next movie recaps.